may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, I am very excited to bring this to y'all. And before we say anything with this video, I just want to give y'all a massive thank you in that literally this channel, and specifically our main fantasy football channel, is growing at such a rapid rate. And alongside that, I mean, our Patreon community, the flock over there, is growing with it. Now, what we are going to be doing very soon is really exciting. And that when we hit, I believe the goal is 500, 550. It's definitely listed on Patreon. But when we hit that many members, I'm going to be going through and I'm going to be doing a bulk order on Flock hats where I'm going to order 200 hats with our logo on it. And the last thing I want to do is go through and sell merch. I don't necessarily like the idea. We tried to do that in the past and it didn't work out. So instead, I'm just going to order enough hats when I have enough money to do so, because the more you order, the cheaper they are. So of course, we're going to try to order as many as we can at once. And then as we live stream every single night on the main fantasy football channel this season, I'm going to be going through and I'm going to be giving away one at the end of every live stream to someone in the flock. I'm very excited about that. Hopefully we hit that threshold soon, but I really just want to give everybody that watches these videos, drops likes on these videos because the like ratio has been ridiculous, leaves comments, supports the show on Patreon. I mean, y'all are driving this channel to places that I never thought it would be at. So I just want to give y'all a big time thank you before we get into this. And what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be trying to predict what our rankings will be next offseason over there on Patreon. So no, I'm not saying that these are going to be redraft rankings. These are dynasty rankings for the 2022 offseason. So I know that is kind of a couple different variables, but everybody, I hope you're on the same page and let's dive into it. And our wide receiver one is going to be A.J. Brown. Okay, so here with A.J. Brown, I mean, yes, we had him as our wide receiver one after free agency this offseason. And then obviously the Julio Jones trade. I mean, I kind of had to move him down the rankings just slightly, given the fact that A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, they're all currently in the same tier where I was like, okay, Julio Jones coming in. Yes, that is going to hurt A.J. Brown, and they're all neck and neck as it is. So let's move A.J. Brown to 3. But a big thing with Julio Jones is this is a wide receiver that is not only already 32 years old, but at the same time, if you look at the contract that Julio Jones does have, I mean, he really has no guaranteed money for next year. Now, of course, he has guaranteed money this year. They just trade for him. He's going to be on the roster. But if Atlanta knows something that we don't, and just say Julio Jones does continue to suffer some injuries, he doesn't necessarily provide the value that that contract dictates, Tennessee's going to be able to easily get out of it. A.J. Brown, I mean, I can't imagine A.J. Brown on a team where he's able to get 25% of the team targets. I mean, similar to what you have with an Allen Robinson or a Terry McLaurin, when they're not playing with any other significant wide receivers, they're able to just dominate targets in their offense. Can you imagine what A.J. Brown would potentially look like if it was just him and Ryan Tannehill and they were just going to work? Now, obviously, Derrick Henry being 27 years old also kind of plays into this, where you're going to be assuming by the time Derrick Henry gets to 28 next year that this team most likely isn't going to be looking to ground and pound the ball with Derrick Henry 300 times over and over again, just because, I mean, the list of players that are able to take that workload at 28 years old is so small historically that I think trying to assume that that's going to happen guaranteed is probably a bad bet. So you also have the off chance that this team all of a sudden turns into a team with more passing volume. And we've already seen the talent that A.J. Brown is based on the fact that he's one of the most efficient wide receivers in the NFL every single year. He'll only be 25. So yeah, I really like the idea of A.J. Brown going down to our wide receiver 3 currently in our dynasty rankings. But next offseason, I think he's going to be back at number 1. So now let's go to our guy that we currently have at number 1 in our dynasty rankings. Let's talk about DK Metcalf here. And with DK Metcalf, I mean, he's not going to be seeing that many changes in his situation next offseason. He's just going to be another year older. I mean, he's only going to be 24 years old next offseason. That is absolutely ridiculous for a wide receiver who has already come in and he's already dominated at the NFL level. I mean, DK Metcalf, I think we can all agree that if you just look at the wide receiver himself, I mean, this is a player that has upside literally like nobody else. The size-adjusted athleticism. He looks like the next reincarnation of a Calvin Johnson. And I mean, we all saw the chase down that he actually had with that interception near the end zone. And clearly, DK Metcalf, one of the fastest players in the NFL, is a size-adjusted freak. Russell Wilson, I believe he's 32 years old. Don't quote me on that. That's off my mind. But I don't think we are going to have to be worried about Russell Wilson falling off anytime soon, given the fact that we have seen now that quarterbacks are going to be able to sustain elite play for years and years and years beyond the time they're 32. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is 36, 37. Tom Brady, of course, we all know Tom Brady is just built different. Now, Ben Roethlisberger, really the one instance that we get of a quarterback falling off dramatically once he gets into his late 30s. But you're not going to have to worry about that for DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson for a very long time. And yes, they draft Dwayne Eskridge in the second round this past year, but Eskridge doesn't profile to be someone seeing a significant amount of targets. It doesn't matter, I mean, how long he actually goes through and develops. DK Metcalf going to be the guy that we are going to have at wide receiver 2. Now, I know a lot of people are probably screaming that we should have Justin Jefferson at 1 or 2, but no, Justin Jefferson's going to come in at wide receiver 3 here. And a big thing with Justin Jefferson is I think the quarterback situation just isn't going to be as good as what you have with either A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf. Now, I think it's really funny that a lot of people who don't necessarily understand historical hit rates and what you actually have at the quarterback position, they are just kind of assuming that Kellen Mond is going to be some guy that comes in, starts for this team next year. And no, that's not going to be the case. I mean, trust me, I'm drafting Kellen Mond in a lot of my Superflex rookie drafts, just like we were Jalen Hurts last offseason. And it's because if Mond gets in there, we know that that's a quarterback that has rushing upside, so he can be someone that is a league winner in fantasy. But you can't act like he is anything guaranteed. I believe that if you had Kellen Mond take over as the starting quarterback next year, it would not be a good thing for Justin Jefferson. I will say that right now. I mean, he would be one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I know Vikings fans aren't going to like that. And this is coming from someone who drafted a lot of them. I promise you, I have him on a lot of Dynasty rosters. And another thing is we have to kind of question what the Vikings are thinking with Kirk Cousins at the moment, because they go out, they get Mond at the beginning of the third. And on top of this, he doesn't really have that much guaranteed money beyond next offseason. I believe his contract will run out. But with Kirk Cousins, he's a quarterback that I think is probably going to be the best option for this team for the foreseeable future, because we know the Vikings, I mean, with the coaching that they have, with how well that organization is run overall, that's a team that's not going to be top 5 in the NFL draft anytime soon. And also, I don't think it's some prime free agent destination spot. I'm sorry if you live in Minnesota, but I doubt any hot name quarterback is going to be trying to push to get a trade there. I mean, you don't see Aaron Rodgers going, I mean, keep me out of the West Coast. Keep me out of Denver. Send me to Minnesota. No, that's never going to be happening for the Minnesota Vikings, as sad as that is to say. So with Cousins, I think that he's probably the best option. I think he is going to be the quarterback for Justin Jefferson for the foreseeable future. And I can't get there in putting him in the same tier with Russell Wilson, with a Ryan Tannehill, and what he can do for his wide receivers. So now at wide receiver 4, we are going to be having CeeDee Lamb. Now, this is probably our first aggressive ranking this video, but just think about how exciting CeeDee Lamb is going to be next offseason, because we know that Michael Gallup is up for a contract next offseason, and Amari Cooper really doesn't have much guaranteed money at all. Now, I can't sit here and I can't say exactly what the Dallas Cowboys are going to do, but I think it's definitely going to come down to either you re-sign Michael Gallup, you let go of Amari Cooper, given the fact that you're not going to have to pay that much dead money on that deal, or you just let Michael Gallup walk and you go into year 3 of CeeDee Lamb with a healthy Dak Prescott, with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb as the top 2 options. And Ezekiel Elliott will be another year older. He'll be the leading running back in active career touches in the NFL. So very similar to the Tennessee Titans situation. I doubt that team is going to be looking to ground and pound next season. So CeeDee Lamb, very excited. He'll be 23 years old. Going to have him there as our wide receiver 4. Now, wide receiver 5, not going to lie, this is where it gets really difficult to try to project out. But for now, we're going to have Calvin Ridley. So with Calvin Ridley, I think he has an argument to be made to potentially be the wide receiver 1 overall this upcoming year. And I know that a lot of people aren't going to agree with that, but if you look at what he has done, I mean, over the past 3 years, emerging as a star in the NFL, it doesn't matter if he's playing in games or Julio Jones is healthy or not. He was an elite wide receiver while healthy. Calvin Ridley, I mean, completely demolished really any other wide receiver not named Davante Adams in fantasy points per game while he was healthy last year. Now, obviously, the problem is going to be Matt Ryan, where Matt Ryan doesn't necessarily look like he's there for the long term. He looks like he is one of those quarterbacks seeing the fall off. But the difference between an Atlanta Falcons roster and a roster like the Minnesota Vikings is, while I think the Minnesota Vikings have no shot to ever be in the top 5 of the NFL draft, who is to say that the Atlanta Falcons are a bottom 5, bottom 6 team this upcoming year with their defense, with Julio Jones leaving, decreasing the overall efficiency of their offense? Maybe they don't get exactly what they want from Kyle Pitts his rookie season, and it takes Kyle Pitts until year 2 to be able to explode into that offensive weapon. So there's a chance that Calvin Ridley actually gets a young, exciting Sam Howell, Spencer Rattler coming in and fixing this situation next offseason. So Calvin Ridley, we are going to be having at wide receiver 5. Now, wide receiver 6, mainly because he's going to be a little bit older. We're going to have Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek Hill, I believe right now we have him as wide receiver 4, but he's going to be 28 years old. And we know in Dynasty, this is about the range where you start to see a fall in Dynasty value. And a big thing with Hill as well is I'm a lot more concerned with Tyreek Hill aging at the wide receiver position compared to what you would find with the DeAndre Hopkins, because in the case of a DeAndre Hopkins, we know that's a wide receiver that wins at the catch point. We know that's a wide receiver that wins at his routes. And I'm not saying that Tyreek Hill doesn't win at either one of those levels, but I think we can all agree that Tyreek Hill bases a lot of his game on the fact that he's one of the most, if not the most, athletic wide receiver in the NFL. And I think that will actually fade a lot quicker than route running, a lot quicker than hands. I mean, because DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver of that prototype, can always transition to turn into Larry Fitzgerald. He can be that guy that, yeah, he's not racking up a ton of yards after the catch, but he's reliable. If you need to get a first down, he can run a quick out, and that route's going to be so crisp. Most likely he can generate separation, and he's not dropping that ball. We know that. Tyreek Hill, unsure if he's going to be able to age gracefully like those other wide receivers, but still the elite production will be there. He'll be attached to Patrick Mahomes. So going to have him there at wide receiver 6. Now, wide receiver 7, we're going to have Stefon Diggs. And with Stefon Diggs here, I mean, he's going to be 28 years old, very similar to what you have with a Tyreek Hill. I do think Diggs is going to be different in that he can win with his route running more so than just his athleticism. He'll be attached to Josh Allen. Very little to say here. I mean, he's going to be a 28-year-old wide receiver that is elite, but I just think that we will prefer Tyreek Hill given the longevity that Tyreek Hill has had as an elite producer while healthy. So yeah, we're going to go Hill over Diggs for the number 6 spot, but I think they are neck and neck. And at number 8, we are going to have JaMarr Chase, who is currently our wide receiver 10 in Dynasty. And I know a lot of people probably want to put JaMarr Chase higher than this, but I think it's hard to say before we actually see him on the field, because there's a chance, and I don't want to say that this is 100% happening, because a lot of people way smarter than me are saying it's not going to happen. But what would happen if JaMarr Chase just started a little slower to his rookie year than a lot of people want to project? Now, right now, we have JaMarr Chase as our wide receiver 10 in Dynasty. I believe we have T. Higgins as our wide receiver 17, but keep in mind, that's off the top of my head. I could be wrong. But regardless, I actually think that T. Higgins outproduces JaMarr Chase this upcoming year, given the fact that T. Higgins has been in that system. T. Higgins has a more recent rapport with Joe Burrow, and we know that T. Higgins is a fantastic wide receiver on his own right. So I think there's a small chance that JaMarr Chase, well, yes, I'm not much lower on him compared to consensus. I have him as our wide receiver 8 here in our projected Dynasty rankings for this offseason. But I think if you're trying to project him to be a top 3 wide receiver in Dynasty next year, you're probably being a little premature with that projection. Okay, so now our next guy is going to be Davante Adams at 9. Now, the problem with Davante Adams is obviously this is a wide receiver that's already 29 years old, so you have to be a little bit more concerned about the age fall off. And another big thing with Davante Adams is I don't necessarily think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be leaving this team this offseason, but I think that we're almost locked into 1 year at the most with Aaron Rodgers playing in Green Bay. I would imagine that Rodgers plays in 2021, and then in 2022, then it's Jordan Love time. And that's why I have Jordan Love stashed across all my Dynasty rosters right now. But while I would love Jordan Love to see that bump up in value, it's not going to help out Davante Adams. I mean, of course, losing Aaron Rodgers is going to be a significant hit, as well as turning 29 years old, because we know that's the turning point where in Dynasty, once you hit 29 years old, it doesn't matter what position. Actually, let me take that back. If you're a quarterback, then throw that out the window. But if you're a wide receiver, if you're a running back, it doesn't matter what happens at 29 years old. You cannot increase your Dynasty value. It can only go down from there, and you're drafting a player purely for production. I'm not saying it's bad to draft 29-year-olds. You just have to understand the asset that you're bringing on to your team. And in that case, it makes Davante Adams less appealing for certain owners. And if Aaron Rodgers is gone, that production, the thing that you're drafting him for, is going to go down as well. So Adams has to be down here at our projection at wide receiver 9. but we actually just recorded a video for the main fantasy football channel where we talked about how dominant Davante Adams was in fantasy last year. And he was literally like the best wide receiver almost of all time for fantasy in 2020. Okay, so now let's get to our last guy, DJ Moore. Okay, so with DJ Moore, I know that this is more so a bet on the talent, where I love DJ Moore. I could actually make the argument, maybe put T. Higgins here, but DJ Moore is going to be 25 years old. So still, I mean, just going into his prime. Now, the situation isn't going to be great. He'll have 1 year guaranteed in Carolina because they have that 5th year option on him. But the quarterback situation, we don't know what to expect. Sam Darnold coming in, that can go any which way. Now, I will say the benefit of DJ Moore is Robbie Anderson is going to be a free agent this upcoming offseason. And we saw them let go of Curtis Samuel. We see them go and get Terrace Marshall. And I think it's maybe telling us that they're preparing to move on from Robbie Anderson next offseason. So you could be looking at this as a situation where DJ Moore going into his prime, yes, we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be, but potentially he can get back to where he was seeing a ridiculous amount of targets, a ridiculous amount of slants and crossing routes a game. And if that's the case, I think DJ Moore is a stud dynasty asset. Okay, so thank you, my dudes, for watching the video. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. And of course, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It definitely helps us out a ton. And if you think that I was wrong with anything I said here, your opinion matters. Let me know in the comment section. And yeah, that'll be it. I will see y'all with the video tomorrow. We've gotten a ton of new members joining the flock. Thank you, Grind for Gold, Devin, Bungified, Brian, Brody, Victor, Chris, Grant, Trevor, and David. Thank you, my dudes.